Morning, 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 gang. All right, this is Hexy. So, for some odd reason, I decided to wake up at like quarter to four this morning. And yesterday, I decided to wake up at like 5:30. Uh, and I have no idea why. Anyhow, I don't want to get my cycles reversed, but I guess it's a good thing because I came in here and decided to finish up this first turn of Kursk. Okay, so pardon me, Eric Goldberg's Kursk. Yeah, so I've read some stuff online, everything about how a game turn in this can be more than an hour, and I can see why. So as starting to play this, and I read through all the rules, highlighted everything that I thought was important, which was quite a bit actually, and then attempted to deploy and push counters. So I had to make a couple of adjustments once I saw what things like stacking and what you're trying to accomplish here. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm running the May scenario, the one that actually the start time of May that did not happen. Manstein wanted to go in May, and Hitler pushed it to July. So I hear that July is just a slugfest, like playing World War One in trench warfare, because the weight that Hitler put on the the German attack allowed the Soviets, the Russians, to increase, I think, their manpower, the defenses, by 75% or something like that, from what I was reading. Um, but I still, for the life of me, even looking at what is here, and granted, the strength of the Panzer divisions is it's decent. It's very good. They definitely outclass the Russian armored formations, but obviously there's going to be more armored formations for the Russians to throw at the Germans as the game progresses. But I still, for the life of me, can't understand, why did you even execute this attack? I mean, were they just looking down, up and down the line, and oh, there's a bubble here, let's attack there? Because from what I gather, Stalin and the boys determined that themselves, that this would be the most likely place, and that's why they flooded everything they could in there. Now, granted, like I say, I'm playing the May scenario, so the flooding hasn't started yet, and it's taken me a few days to complete the first turn of this, because you got to do a lot of thinking when you break through, whether or not you're going to just move as far forward as you can with the Germans and try to take objectives. Which, as you can look at the map here, which I'm not zoomed in, trying to give you a broad perspective of this, playing part aggressive but mostly tentative, because really not sure how to develop this, because I look at the German lines and I'm like, there's nothing behind them to go fill in gaps when you break out. So you're going to have to break down into camp grouping. Well, I got a feeling that's probably going to happen here on this turn for the Germans, because these panzer divisions broke through. We took Gov, we took this little town up here, we took one down over here, but now he's cut off, he's cut off, he's cut off, he's cut off. Okay? You don't mark units, there are no out of supply markers in this game. You check for supply and communications at the start of movement for each unit as you go to move them, and then at the start of combat for the units that are involved. And then you apply reductions or movement reductions or whatever. I think for out of supply in combat, it's a 2-column shift. So you apply it at the instant of combat or at the instant of movement. Getting ready to start turn two, and it's the Germans' turn. And I'm looking at this fiasco I have up here, and I'm like, okay, what do I even have to break this up? Because combat in this game is not strength versus strength. It is attacker strength versus defender steps. And let me pick a unit up here. And you can see that this unit right here, he has 5 steps. So if he's being attacked, it's going to be whatever the attacker's strength is, and then initially minus the number of steps that the defender has. And then you've got some die roll modifiers for the amount of steps and for terrain and dragon's teeth and things like that. And then there's air power. Then you got artillery and anti-tank. So what I'm doing here with the Soviets have all these random anti-tank and artillery units that go into the fight here. And what I'm doing is I'm just doing a random odd or even die roll to give myself some fog of war as to whether or not uh, a stack that's being attacked is going to have any artillery or any tank unit also in the hex with it, or else, because I mean, I would just look, if I did it myself as playing as the Civic Hunter, I would just look at the deployment and I would start dropping units where, of course, any commander would, where you think the approaches would be from. But I wanted to sort of give me a little randomness in this as I did this. So that's what I'm doing, oddies. So whenever a combat occurs or something like that, or is getting ready to, that's when I'll roll on Fog of War, or I'll roll for whether there's anti-tank or artillery. So, all right. This is another one of those systems that I've not played anything. I mean, outside of movement and just whatever basic combat, and maybe having air power to a column shift. There's plenty of games out there like that, but the combat system of strength versus steps is different. Having a second combat by parent or by units that are in assault mode, reducing movement on units that are in static mode, which means they're prepared for defense. Determining how far you can retreat by what type of mode a unit is in. For example, a unit in static mode, to retreat, he can only retreat 1 hex, and then anything else he's got to take step losses to make up whatever the difference is. Units in mobile mode on defense, like I think the Germans can retreat 3 hexes maximum. So if they get attacked and have 3 step losses in the attack, they can actually retreat 3 hexes if they can do it. Anything that you can't do, like I say, you have to make up for it in step losses. Opening turn, so the German armor broke out, but my God, they took just a ton of step losses, which you can see all of these are Panzer divisions step loss. Now, granted, some of these things have 8, 7, 5, or whatever. They have a bunch of steps to lose, but that just seems so much. In the Russians, for every 2 steps that a German Panzer division loses, they're going to get a victory point. Okay, victory points, as I'm tracking them, I guess as I go, you can see the Germans are already up to 28, and the Soviets are up to 7. Okay, and the only reason the Germans are 28 is because they took all of those victory location hexes, like Gov and this town here and this little town here. The Soviets had to activate some reserve units, which were this armored unit and this armored unit here. They were sitting in the middle of the map. They were in reserve status, so that gave the Germans 2 more victory points. So you get victory points for Soviet reserve forces that get activated. Replacements for the German, they got 1 replacement right off the bat, put it right on a Panzer division. Matter of fact, put it on one that's up here, which actually sort of influenced the Russians not to attack it, and he is sitting in a victory location. But so it looks like now that the Russians have already starting to collapse off the front line into their second tier defenses here, and in their second tier defenses here, which now, like I say, has just put these Panzer divisions in a bad state as far as supply and communication. You have out of supply, you have out of communication. So they're going to be wiped from both of them. So they're not going to be extremely effective, I don't think, on this turn. This is interesting. Like I say, this is a unique system that I've never seen before. So I want to keep pushing with this thing. Excuse me. At the same time, I got the Napoleonic game from Lock and Load that I'm also going to do some play on here and put some video out on that. I'm going through the rules on that now. But Kursk, I think this was 1980, I think it was. I've got the S&T magazine over there, the Move magazine, which has great articles and tips in it and write-ups. Look at developers' notes, designer notes in the game. Charts are really simple in this game. Just a different system. And I got a feeling I'm just going to keep going on with this. Why did you even make this attack? I'm just not seeing it. I can't see. I don't know what the value in it was other than to reclaim some space. Kursk looks like it has a multi-rail intersection here, so I guess that was going to be valuable to the Germans to have that. But I just don't see. I mean, you're on a river line here. If you do take over that pocket, where's your? I don't see the defensive, unless you push way down in here. I don't really see the value of that land other than, like I say, other than that intersection of rail lines right there. I don't know. I'm always open to hear what I love the tidbits I get from you guys out there about the historical significance of some of this stuff, and I'd love to hear what Kursk was all about, other than just the Germans trying to flex their muscle or say, "Hey, we can beat you anywhere, anytime." I don't know. I don't see it in this one right here. All right, so now let's get this posted so you can see what my initial thoughts are on this thing, and we'll just keep driving on. All right, talk to y'all soon.